What did the soul use in order to get the Kundalini to the Mulahara?
It pushed Shakti down Shushumna.
Shushumna. And what is Shushumna?
It's the spinal column.
What?
The spinal cord. Well, in the physical sense. It's within the spinal cord.
Shushumna is what? It's called a Shushumna what?
Nadi.
What?
Shushumna Nadi.
Okay. So the Shushumna Nadi is the little tiny space that's in what? The spinal column, right? That's how we describe it, at least. Right? So the soul uses the Nadi system to do what? To bring about its basic, involution. It brings about its involution. And it uses the Nadi system to do what? Also.
Create the body.
No, what I'm saying, the body is created from here. Because involution is creating the body. Right? So it also uses the Nadi system to do what?
Evolution. Back to evolution.
Right. So I'm just trying to give you basic terms so you can follow it. Okay? So the soul uses the nadis. The soul uses the nadis to bring about evolution, right? So that it can do what? It can bring about a embodiment, right? Not a spelling. Of consciousness. Okay? Because the soul itself is above consciousness, right? The soul is above consciousness. So, in order for the soul to carry out the will of God, because the will of God, when in all the Bibles, in all the Bibles, whether it was the Hindu Bible or the Buddhist Bible or the Torah or the Christian Bible or even the Quran, it states that God spoke the word, right? Now we go back to the oldest Bible or the oldest holy scriptures on the earth, which comes out of the Vedas, right? And the Upanishads, we find the same thing. God spoke the word, and they say that first word, the first word was described as Vak, which was a sound vibration, right? And this sound vibrations in Sanskrit was described as a wave of what? Anybody remember? Nobody? A wave of Nada, right?
Yeah.
Which represents the wheel of consciousness or sound, this all-pervasive sound vibration that molds and shapes Shakti, which is energy, right? This sound vibration that molds and shapes, right? Energy or Shakti into creation. All right? So we have this creative sound vibration that's pushing through life, and it creates, it molds and shapes this Shakti power that we're dealing with, right? So the soul does the same thing, but on a micro level, right? The soul is created by the spirit, which is the divine spark of God within us, in short, right? And this soul is created from the spirit releasing a sound, you know, and that sound is some type of creative configuration of what it wants, the will of God. So this soul is created from the spirit, and then the soul has a mission to involve itself to go through experience in creation, in some body of consciousness, without all of its awareness, because since it came from what? Since it came from the spirit, right? The spirit is what? It's part of the absolute, right? Right?
All awareness.
So it has this all awareness, because the absolute is all in all. So it is aware of everything, right? But when the spirit creates the soul, right? The soul still has some type of connection back to the spirit and the absolute. So it is aware of its divinity. So then therefore it responds to the divinity in a sense where it predetermines all its actions to do what? To fall under what? Why does it predetermine all its actions?
Involve itself.
No, to fall unto what? The law of karma, right? You all forgot all of this, huh? Because the law of karma is what? Is the will of God,
It is God.
right? So in order for the soul to bring about the will of God by creation, by actually having experience within creation, it must bring about an involution of itself where it's not aware of its divinity. Okay? Now, when you get into this, a lot of people lose it because this is a part of metaphysics that I don't know why it confounds people. All right? But in this last diagram here, I tried to make it just as simple as ever. Over here on the side, you can see what I'm talking about. Right? When the soul is created, it has a lack of knowledge, right? From experience. Okay? Now, that's ambiguous, right? Because the soul is all aware. But it's, at the same time, it has a lack of knowledge of experience, because why? It had not experienced creation as an involved being. So the soul make an action to bring about that. Now, so it goes to the next stage. This stage, it has a non-discrimination of the real and unreal, self and non-self. See? Because why? It's connected to the all. It's aware of the all. So it's like when they speak of Jesus or Sri Krishna or Buddha, they say he loves no one because he loves all. Right? He can't. A great divine being can't demonstrate loving only one person, because they love everyone because of their divinity. Okay? So this is the state of the soul at its highest level. Then the soul must bring about its own evolution. So it moves to the ahamkara level, right? You all heard of this, right? Huh?
That's the first one I've used.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure.
This is where it brings about the ego of itself. All right? The I maker, the ego consciousness, or the principle of individuality that brings about the ego illusion. All right? This is what? What type of stage is this in? We talked about it many a time. Huh? Didn't we talk about this? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So, because why? It places a blinder on part of his consciousness, as it pushes down this Shakti power through Sushumna, right? As it pushes down the Shakti power through Sushumna, it does what? It restricts itself. It binds itself. It wraps itself up into the cloth of consciousness, right? To do what? To bring about a basic consciousness, okay? In order to begin to experience the lower aspects of creation, all right? Then as it moves forward, it begins to experience attachment, pride, a resort of being embodied, right? The soul begins to experience the embodied part of itself, okay, the ego, okay, it begins to live and breathe through these basic forms of creation and that it have created for itself. And this is where all the different bodies come into play, okay? Then the likes and the dislikes, see, it's becoming detached from what? Its divinity. Okay, because it's beginning to like and dislike certain things. In the state of its divinity, it disliked nothing and it liked nothing. Because why? Because it loved everything. All right, so it begins to take on the basic aspects of consciousness. Then comes the ever-moving samsara, right? Because why? Because when it takes on these different attributes and personalities, what happens to it? It causes a what? It causes a ripple in common, right? And one action brings about what? Huh? An equal and opposite action, right? So it brings about a reaction. Now, in order to get back to that original position, what happens?
Takes 100 corrective actions.
It takes 100 corrective actions. But then in your 100 corrective actions, each one of those 100 corrective actions is equal to what? Huh? Each one of those 100 corrective actions is equal to what? Another 100 corrective actions. Right? So we're doing what?
Constantly creating
We're constantly creating
ripple effect.
trying to get back to that stage of divinity.
But the one way to do it is really through silence.
Huh?
To
Well,
quiet it down.
that's where we're going to. That's what I want to see. So this is life. This is the samsara, right? We talked about that. I know.
The wheel of rebirth.
Huh? Yeah. This is the will of rebirth, right? Or reincarnation. This is the cycle that we create for ourselves. Because why? We're constantly trying to correct our actions. So the gross bodies, we find ourselves, because of this action, we find ourselves sinking to the lowest state of existence. That thing that we talk about, the fourth aspect, right? You know, where we are stuck in this physical body to live and die hundreds of thousands of times in order to correct our first action, right? And that's where the law of karma comes in at. So we're constantly trying to correct those actions. So at that point, we're almost totally cut off from our divinity. And this is where all the science of religion, of all the different religions come into play to try to guide us back to the Godhead, you know, to that God-like type consciousness. Yeah.
I understood but half of that concept. But the fact that action equals reaction, and one action equals 100 corrections. Would you mind briefly?
The law of karma is, in other words, the law of karma is, in simple terms, the law of karma is pressure towards conformity, right? The Lord Buddha said that the law of karma is action. It's called what it's called. Action is opposite.
Action and reaction is
Action and reaction is opposite and equal. Right? In fact, that's one of the
law of thermodynamics.
That's one of the laws of thermodynamics. If you go and study thermodynamics, you'll see that law that Buddha stated thousands of years ago. Jesus said, "As you sow, so shall you reap," which is much simpler, right? So that is the law. So every action that we make, that action has a reaction, and it's opposite. It might be opposite to the original action, but it's equal. See? But in order to get back to that first position, we have to. We find ourselves have to make a lot of changes, a lot of variables, a lot of corrective actions in order to get back to the original action. Because why? We created so much mess. You know, it's like let's say if we was out on a football field and that, or some type of field, let's say a baseball field, a diamond field. And, you know, they got all the sand and they done laid it all out, and we walk across that, right? We leave a bunch of footprints, right? So in order to get out of there and put it back in the original place, what are we doing? We're backtracking ourselves and trying to smooth the sand back out in the original shape. But it takes a lot of reactions in order to get it back right. Yeah.
So the law of karma is a law of conformity?
It's a law of conformity, yeah.
Conformity to what?
To the divine law of God.
Okay.
Okay? So because why? Because in all the teachings, in all metaphysical teachings, no matter what religion it comes from, it tells us this. It tells us that what? That we must conform to the laws of God. All right? Now, how do we do that? Because our Nadi yoga, which is the yoga of wisdom, which is the yoga that comes from the masters, and we know that there's many masters that came to the earth. We don't lean towards any one. We realize that Jesus was a great master. We realize that Laose was a great master. We realize that Buddha, Sri Krishna, Sankara, Confucius, we have knowledge from all these different great masters. And we realize that they have given us Nadi, which is wisdom, right? So we take that wisdom and we do what with it? We learn it, we begin to adopt that to our lives, and then what happens? When we seed our consciousness with this, it begins to do what to us? It begins to mold and shape our actions. Because why? It gives us an understanding. It places us in a position that we begin to understand. So what happens? We begin to predetermine our actions. Before we go and kill a wild bull and feast on it, we think about that wild bull as a life form. Should I go and participate in the death of that life form? Maybe that life form needs at least 2 more days of experience before it moves on, right? So everything we do, we begin to question. Whatever we go and do, we begin to question, because why? We begin to gain a natural respect for life all around us. And we realize that if we were spirit and everything came from spirit, then who are we to be greater than anything? See? We begin to understand that. We begin to walk that road of wisdom. So it begins to shape and mold our actions. And from there, we begin to understand what Bhatta Yoga really is, which is devotion to God. We begin to understand what Raja Yoga means, which is what? Which is controlling our mental processes, right? We begin to begin to conform our whole life to a way of working within the law of karma, not against the law of karma. Okay? Because why? Because we begin to reduce the negative reactions of the law of karma against ourselves. Because you can never work outside the law of karma, but you can have the law of karma placing tremendous pressure on your life and the people around you. Okay? But when you begin to try to live a life that responds to the laws of God, then you begin to get a more pleasant, a more positive reaction from the pressures of karma. Okay? So the Nadis, I say all of this because why? What does the Nadis carry through itself?
The energy.
Energy. The energy coming from where? Huh? Who said Kundalini? Okay, and what is Kundalini? What is Kundalini?
Shakti.
Consciousness.
It's Shakti, but what is it?
The sound.
It's the vehicle of what?
Consciousness.
It's the vehicle of what? Consciousness, right? That's good, right? So what is the Nadis carrying through it?
Consciousness.
Consciousness. All right. So now, as the Nadis carry this power of consciousness through it, it does what? It passes through what? 242,000 what? Nadi pathways, right? Now, as it passes through these Nadi pathways, it creates or places man's consciousness on all the chakras within the body. All right? This is one of the binding effects of evolution. All right? So you have how many chakras was in the body?
108.
108 chakras, right? And if I was to describe a chakra in the form, using in relationship to the Nadis, what would I call it?
Just the intersection of multiple numbers.
Yeah, but there is a simpler term that most people use. It's called the Nadi what?
99.
Nadi knots. So you would have 108 Nadi knots within the body, right? Now those Nadi knots are what you said. It's the intersection of what?
90.
Of what? Of nadis, or the flow of energy, right? So that flow of energy is actually what? A flow of what? Of consciousness. So what happens? The soul splits its newly formed consciousness up into 108 parts. Okay? So therefore, it weakens itself to the world around it. Okay? Now, what the yoga sciences does, and most religious sciences, whether they realize it or not, it have us to do what?
Purify the nadis.
To do what?
Purify.
Purify those nadis. Right? Yeah.
Are those 108 divisions of consciousness, are they all equal, or there's like some?
Well, what is equal? That's a question.
No, are they all equal levels of consciousness, or are they differentiating?
I mean, I don't know if you can use the word equal, because because, in other words,
In terms
if
of
you
awareness.
had, well, understand what equal is. A lot of people don't understand what equal is. If you had $99 and something costs $110, and I had the $11, you can't get it without me, right? So I could sit you down to the table and bargain my way to 50%. Right? So what is equal? So,
Do you mind quickly explaining what consciousness is?
consciousness?
Yeah.
Well, consciousness is limitation.
Okay.
It's the simplest way to understand consciousness. Because remember what we said, that the spirit was what?
All knowing.
All-knowing, all-aware, right? And the soul was what?
Semi-all-knowing.
It was all-knowing and all-aware, because why? Its relationship with
The absolute.
the absolute spirit. So in order for the soul, because the soul is above consciousness, right? So in order for the soul to carry out the will of God, the soul had to do what? It had to involve itself in a state of consciousness. It had to wrap itself up, so that it wasn't all aware anymore. It had to put hundreds of blinders on itself in order to bring about the proper state of consciousness in order to begin to experience this thing called creation. Other than that, it would have seen through the illusion of creation
Did not experience it.
and not experienced it. See? It's just like right now, as we sit here in this room, and there's some little tiny bug crawling on the floor, there's no way we can experience the life of that bug, right? Because we cannot see within its vision and sound and touch and taste. See? So that bug is experiencing life at the same time we're experiencing life in the same space, but we're totally unaware of it. And the bug is totally unaware of us. So, but the only way we can experience that bug life is we create a device in order to begin to have some type of recognition of it, right? So that's what the soul did. The soul created this thing called consciousness in order to allow it to experience life in the lowest common denominator, which is us. Okay? So, in these 242,000 Nadi pathways, the soul brought about consciousness through the 108 nadis, through the 108 Nadi knots, I mean. Okay? So that was a what? It was a split of what? What did we say it was? A split of consciousness.
Further limitation, right? That's
Further limitation.
Is everybody okay with the temperature? Everybody's standing up, so.
So the soul ran about a split of consciousness of 108, right? It uses the what to create the realm to help it proceed through the realms of existence. Anybody know?
vehicle consciousness
Huh?
to perceive perceive creation,
Yeah.
create the vehicle consciousness. The body.
Yeah, but in that, it uses prana, or pranas, right? Which is different levels of energy. Right? At least 5 levels of energy, right? It uses the what? The tablets, which is at least 360 rays from the sun, right? From the sun and modified by the moon and earth. And it uses the bhutas, which is cosmic elements, right? It uses nata. Okay. So it uses a compaction of different forces, right? To bring about this basic form of consciousness. And it uses mind energy. these are the things that it uses. And from there, the realms of existence, of understanding, and life itself is created, right? The Tavic rays, is divided among the chakras, okay? And among the chakras, you have 360 Tavic rays that radiate from the sun. The base of the spine and the sixth chakra share or have 118 Tavic rays that it manipulates in order to create the realms of existence or the levels of consciousness on that level. Okay? But then between the solar plexus center and the heart chakra, you have how many? Anybody looking at the paper?
106.
106.
On page 5 and 6 of the packet.
Yeah, 106 Tavic rays that is split up among the solar plexus chakra, which is the navel chakra and the heart chakra. And then at the throat level and the third eye level or the Christ level, there's 136 Tavic rays that comes from the sun, but is modified by the moon. And the soul uses those Tavic rays to help create the mental worlds of this plane, or to help experience the mental worlds of this plane, is a better way of saying it. Okay? So, all this is ancient information. You can search through the Upanishads, the Vedas, and you'll find these things. It's nothing I made up. So you will see this and begin to understand that this is an intricate and complex, but yet scientific study that was given in the ancient teachings. So these rays are these rays, or this energy comes through the sun. The sun releases a sound vibration, right? That sound vibration divides this tremendous energy called the tapas, which is really prana and mind, universal prana or universal cosmic energy, and a universal mind substance or energy that originated from the absolute, and it probably went through the it probably went from the absolute to the supreme laws of creation, down through the supreme laws of karma, down through the galactic lords of creation, and then down through all the suns of each solar system within the galaxy, until it reaches our sun. And our sun, which is the God of our solar system, releases this sound vibration and this energy, and it breaks it up so that we can survive. And these are the ancient teachings. In fact, the ancient teachings describe the galaxy as what? Huh? Jehovah. Jehovah. So the galaxy was Jehovah. And God was who? The sun. So from Jehovah came another aspect of itself, which is the sun, God. And God released the word, and this tremendous energy came and created our worlds.
Now, these forces, they're cosmic forces. Like you said, they're sent from, the absolute through these huge bodies like the galaxy, the sun, the moon, the earth. The earth and the moon, they radiate it, and then the soul uses that to create our bodies, or is the soul kind of like intertwined with that?
The soul uses that to manufacture the body.
So I'm saying like the planets and the moon and that, like that's greater. I guess I know I'm wrong, but
It's greater than what?
like the soul, like
Well, it's at
before the soul?
a greater evolutional level than our souls.
so that's what I'm saying. Like they radiate that to our souls, and then our soul uses it to create.
Yeah.
That's why people refer to the horoscope and the zodiac and all that, because the placement of the planets when you were born, when your soul created your body, influences a lot of the limitations that you
The
impose upon
influence,
yourself.
at least what we can understand. At least what we got, because a lot of that we get wrong. We miscalculate it and don't tell the right thing. But yeah, they make it available. Now, understand that the auric body that the soul creates for its state of consciousness, right? The auric body that the soul creates for its consciousness, it has a karmic signature. And that's what dictates who you are, and where you're placed. Okay? Because that karmic action, that the first karmic action that you created for yourself, right, was did in your what? In your auric body. Because your auric body does what? Anyone remember?
It doesn't die.
Huh?
It holds the original substance.
Yeah. It doesn't die. It's with you all the way to your ascension and beyond. Okay? So it's indestructible. So your auric body it holds the Akashic record of who you are. Now scientists is realizing that within this thing they call DNA, they realizing that the DNA of each one of us carry the history of our genealogy. So whoever we were connected to in this body make, the genealogy is there for as long as this type of body was on earth. So, and they realizing that now, after decades of studying DNA. But of course, the yogis, the mystics have said this for thousands of years. They say the auric body holds the records of our total existence.
I mean, that's
It's our connection to the Akashic record, really.
It's greater than DNA.
It's greater than DNA.
DNA could talk about your physical body, but
Yeah. So well, as long as far as we know,
yes.
we don't know. It might talk about more than that. It's the limitations we place on ourselves that allow us not to understand it greater. Because the body is only a reflection of what? Of the subtle bodies. And the subtle bodies is only a reflection of what? Of the consciousness, and the consciousness is only a reflection of the soul, right? So in our physical body, our physical body, we have a subtle astral body, we have an etheric body, we have a pranic body, we have a mental body, right? And we even have a psychic body within the mental body, and we have the auric body, right? So it's only it goes right back to the original source. So if that DNA came from that, then it must show evidence of these things. It's just that we don't have the instruments to detect it. That's all. So, everybody understand so far? So, you understand that also, which I didn't really go into, we have the Savic level that the soul came out of, right? And went into what? The Savic level is what? Pure, right? Right? And it pushed its consciousness down to the level of Rajas and Tamas, which is the level of desire, passion, and darkness, which is Tamas. All right? In order to begin to experience creation. Any questions? Now, just for the purposes of so that you understand a little bit, I gave this. There's 14. It's really more than 14. But there's 14 major nadis, named major nadis in the body, which is really 17, really. Because within Shushunda, there's 3 nadis. There's 3 nadis within Shushunda, so it's really 17. But usually they don't separate it because it's within Shushunda. And these are named nadis, and you can do further research on it so you can understand it. And all these nadis come up to the head. They go from the lower part of the body up into the head center. All right? And of course, I put this diagram in there. Without the nadis, you cannot experience any type of sensory perception. Okay? The nadis terminate, number 1, at the left and right nostrils is the main entry into the nadis. Right? Because with the nadis, breath, consciousness is maintained from what? From breath. Right? So that's where in yoga, when you begin to try to purify the nadis, you do what? You do pranayama in order to purify the nadis, in order to take control over the nadis. So you terminate, so the nadis are terminated here. But also, the nadis bring about sensory perception of sight through your eyes, okay? It brings about hearing through through your ears. So you have nadis terminating at the ears, the eyes, the nose to bring about smell, all right? All over your skin in order to bring about touch, all right? And top lip, bottom lip, and tongue in order for you to speak, in order for you to taste, all right? In order for you to translate thought to sound or manifest consciousness through sound, all right? There again, ancient knowledge was written down thousands of years ago before man began to publicly talk about the internal workings of the body. So and there's I didn't put the Sanskrit terminology in here, but if you want that, you can research it yourself.
So Shushumna terminates. I mean, I'm looking at the physical drawing. Terminates in no, it doesn't. Or terminates at the crown.
No, Shoshana doesn't terminate at the crown. It terminates at the, really at the Christ Center.
Because here you're not going
The crown is not connected to anything. The crown is not connected to anything. And there's multiple chakras within the head. They're like minor chakras. In fact, most of the chakras in the body are either minor or minute chakras. There's only a few major chakras within the body. Okay. On this page, I talk a little bit about it, and I show you the ancient description of the Nadi system, and I give you the petals. The petals within each chakra. The petals are actually bits of sound or letters, and they are mantras. They're actually mantras or sound vibrations on each chakra. And that is the thing that helps configure the energy of the chakras. So as you begin to develop yourself through pranayama and various Raja Yoga techniques, and Nadi Yoga techniques, and Bhakti Yoga techniques, you begin to calibrate the petals or sound vibrations within the chakras, which helps to purify the nadis and activate the nadis, which would in turn activate the chakras. Okay? And then you begin to have higher states of consciousness through a free movement of energy flowing through the nadis, either the existing kundalini energy in the nadis or an abundance of energy, of kundalini energy within the nadis when you wake up the part of kundalini that stays dormant, which is like 90 to 95% of the kundalini within the body is dormant. You only have between 2 to 5%. Some people have up to 8% that's not dormant, that's flowing through the body. Okay?
You say there's chakras outside the physical body, within the aura?
Yeah, but I'm not going into it. Most of the chakras manifest itself a lot of chakras manifest itself within the auric body. It's outside of the so-called physical body. It's not outside of the body. Your real body is the auric body, as far as we're concerned. If you notice, the aura extends where? Outside of the body, all right? Because the physical body is a tool that the aura is using to manifest itself on this physical plane. The astral body is a tool that the aura uses to manifest itself on the astral plane. The etheric body is a tool that the aura uses to manifest itself on the etheric plane. Now, if you notice, once the adept becomes, well, not an adept, let's say the avatar. Let's go to an avatar. Once an avatar, like Jesus or Buddha or Sri Krishna becomes the avatar, they do what to their aura? They draw the aura within the body, within their body, because why? Their body become a risen body, right? So they don't allow the auric body to do what? To contaminate the atmosphere with their uncontrolled mental thoughts, although they don't have any uncontrolled mental thoughts the way we do. But they use all the energy within the divine law of karma. Okay?
They bring it under their own control, consciousness.
Because the auric body is under their control, the physical body is under their control, the astral body is under control, so they can vibrate to any level they want to, at will. They don't need these layers of consciousness the way we do, because they live on all the realms at once. See? They live on all the realms at once. But now that our consciousness are so divided, we live on multiple realms of existence in an unconscious state, in a restless unconscious state. Okay? So what do? We, as I stated on one of these things, in simple terms, the mind in its lowest state operates in a restless, scattered, inert state. Okay? Mind in its highest state of operation is calm and stillness. Okay? Prana in its lowest state of operation is incoherent, sporadic, inviolate, dark, and partially disconnected from the mind. Okay? So therefore, is not very useful, right? Prana in its highest state is the state of in the highest state of operation is perfectly balanced, and it enters the driving force. Is moved and operates within the inner driving force of the mind. Okay, and that's when it's functioning in its highest state. So when you bring prana under your control, then you won't have this sporadic type personality. You know, you'll be much calmer, and your mind will be much calmer, and your consciousness will be it will be easy to elevate your consciousness to higher levels of existence. Okay? Any questions? Yeah.
Well, it's a question that has to do with the AUM. In the lecture tape with Dr. King on the AUM, he mentioned that there's another mantra that's just as powerful as the AUM, but it represents like the negative or the female aspect. Is this mantra something that we've heard at some point in our life? Is it?
I can't tell you that. I mean, I doubt it. But I mean, why would you need that information anyway?
The same answer he gave.
What you gonna do with that information?
He wouldn't tell me that.
Huh?
Can't you like recite it so like
No.
can...
But what you gonna do with it? First, master the AUM. Okay. When you master the AUM, what happens? Do you know?
It lives within you, and you're
No,
able to...
more than that. What happens? Do you know?
No, I don't.
Okay, master the AUM first. Then you'll begin to understand that. Because the AUM is what? What is the AUM?
Creation.
Creative.
It's the creative word. And within the AUM is what? What?
All sound.
Say it again.
All mantras.
All mantras. So why are you asking me? There's your answer there. You know? So I mean that's the ancient teachings.
So why would someone then practice that other mantra?
Why would someone do what?
Practice the other mantra.
Who said someone was practicing it?
No.
Did you hear of anyone say they was practicing that? If they told you that, they lied to you. It's simple as that. Any other questions?
Going back to the karma, so if you make one wrong action, for example, if you go out to kill a bull, you would have to make 100 actions to correct that one wrong action of killing the bull.
That's figuratively speaking.
Yeah, figured.
You know, you might have to make more than that. You know, I tell you what one master said. He was in India doing World War I or II. And he was a well-known master. And the soldiers came home from war, and they came to him begging for help because they had not killed so many people in war. And they was asking, was there any hope for them? You know? So the master told them, say, there's always hope. There's always hope. You know? So he gave them a holy mantra to repeat, and gave them a specific number to repeat the mantra. Okay?
For each person they kill.
Each person they kill. And it was, to my understanding, it was tens of millions of times. So that means they had to sit and chant the mantra for months on end, years on end, for everyone they had killed. So I can't remember the exact numbers, but I remember calculating it was like 10 million, either 10 million or 40 million for each time, for each death they took. So it's more than just one action. So, I mean, 100 actions. That's figuratively speaking, but that's what the master told them. So they had to chant the mantra for millions and millions of times, tens of millions of times.
So you could spend many lives correcting actions that you did in one
Yes.
life.
Yes. So to take a life is, that's why a lot of the Buddhists and the Hindus, they vowed not to take life, and that's why a lot of them became vegetarians. And the same thing with in the Old Testament, you'll see where a lot of the Jewish people became vegetarians because they refused to take a life. Any life. So to take a life is to deny the experience of a life form. And today we see how important that is. So because that experience is the thing that gets us back to where? Back to our divine state as conscious gods. Okay? So we have to go through all these experiences in order to fulfill the will of God, but we will return as conscious gods, not as wrapped up the way we are. All right?
In the bravery lecture, of the king, he talks about when you experience fear, you are momentarily or evil. I wasn't quite sure what he meant by that. Because he was giving the description of, say, if an entity comes into your home, and you show fear of that negative entity, that entity will lock onto your aura and start to feed off of you. But then he was also going on further saying, dogs can smell fear, and if you show fear to a dog, it will attack you. And rightfully so, because at that time you're being, evil. I didn't understand what he meant by it.
Is it because you're feeding it? So you're connecting to that?
Well, if you what did I just say earlier? In your physical manifestation, what are you? What's the real you in your physical manifestation?
The aura.
So if you sitting down and you put something before you and you begin to concentrate on that, what happens to your aura?
takes on the shape of that item.
It takes the shape of that item.
So when you
So
become
what are you
fear,
then? So then what are you?
So when you're in a fearful state, you're becoming that.
Your fear.
Becoming that.
that's why people who are afraid of things, they become violent or negative towards
Yeah.
things.
And psychically, you can smell it. There's a horrible smell.
What people that fear?
Yeah. You haven't experienced that yet?
So wouldn't be, say for example, like attending a horror movie, watching a horror movie, wouldn't that be participating in like an evil ritual in a sense?
No, I don't know about all of that. Let's be practical now.
I think it depends on the state of mind.
It depends on whether you want to believe that. Now when you're going into, your intention to go into a movie theater is to do what?
Entertain.
To entertain yourself. Okay, so then you don't view that as reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, you detach yourself from it. Just like we was in the we was watching one movie, the last movie that what's her name? Halle Berry played it.
Oh, okay.
Remember the lady? Remember the big huge lady that came and rubbed herself as she was coming by you?
Oh,
Sit
Lord.
down. So it was all this room, but she decided to just come, and when I seen her coming to the theater, I just knew she was gonna squeeze by Robin, So I sat there to enjoy this comic, incident, So then she gets inside the movie theater and she's talking to the movie the whole time. So when Halle Berry goes to jump when they go to jump back into, I don't know if you've seen the movie, with the serial killer, the lady hollers out and said, "This is some what?"
It's a what? She's taking a nose space. Oh,
So,
God.
although she was being entertained, she was totally detached from it because she said, "This is not reality," So no, I wouldn't say that this is, because people go in there to be entertained, and that's a good thing because you have to relax yourself and you have to entertain yourself. You have to have these. In our state of consciousness, we just can't move in one direction all the time without bringing about some type of release of tension, So there's nothing wrong with going entertaining yourself, but if that entertains you, I don't particularly like horror movies, but but if that entertains you,
You better go see Paranormal.
well, you can go see it.
You know, they come with
I don't really like. I don't
I
like
gotta go
those
with the
movies.
girls.
Yeah, I don't really like that.
I don't even go and scream together.
I'm not gonna screen it. I think it's stupid in most cases.
He went on to say that if you go down into the lower realms and do work, that if you show fear at any time, you can contaminate yourself for 1 to 2, or a couple lives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't completely understand that as well.
Because you're becoming a part of that, right? It's like, in other words, it's like this. Let's say drugs, right? You take cocaine or you smoke some weed or something. What are you doing? You're contaminating yourself. You have became a part of that. Now, if you smoke too much of weed, especially, I guess, I don't know, some good grown weed with all the high potency in it, right? And they haven't taken out the. I'm not talking about the what do they call it? No, the when they take the high out of it, the ones that were the high is still into it, and you contaminate your body. Do you not think you're contaminating your aura too? You're contaminating your aura because you're becoming a part of that. In fact, recently, it's in several different sources of people who go down to the lower heavens and the lower hell have found that cocaine, crack, weed smoking, it creates cancer in the aura. And what does it do? It follows you for lifetimes. So when you're reborn, even in your new body as a baby, you come back with all different type of birth defects or mental deficiency. So until you do what? Until you purify your aura again. Until you flush yourself out, So if you've been smoking the weed and carrying on, then you get a new fresh set of blood cells every 180 days. So work on yourself. Flush yourself out before you die. Because what happens, you contaminate you contaminate yourself. So if you go wherever you go, even if you're working at a nuclear plant and there's a leakage and there's a high level of background radiation, then you're affecting yourself. So if you go to that contaminated area, why shouldn't you be contaminated for that present moment in time to come until you do what? This is the real world. This is not no play. When you die, everything essentially become correct. Like I always tell you, if you a nitwit here on earth, then prepare to be a nitwit, on the other side too when you leave here. Until you better yourself. But there's always opportunity to better yourself. There's always opportunity to gain a higher understanding and reshape your life. That's just it. It's not no one thing that carries all. And when you throw off the physical body, that doesn't mean you become a Superman. To a sense, things are given to you. You have a greater power at your hand, on the other side because you're working on a different body. But if your mind is weak here, your mind is going to be weak there. It's as simple as that.
That was an impression that when you project to do healing, a certain protection is granted to you.
It's a protection that you bring about, that you put on yourself. But if you tear down that protection, then what do you have? You understand?
Fear is like attaching yourself to that, to that realm, so it destroys that protection.
Remember, I just gave you a diagram talking about attachment. Attachment is not something positive. Attachment is something negative. It's something that bounds us, that embodies us. Go back and study this, a little bit more. All right? These are some good books. I just brought it so you can. Serpent Power and the Mysteries, The Mind, Its Mysteries and Control by Sivananda. Serpent Power is by Arthur Evelyn. All right? And for those who need a good book, to encyclopedia, this helps you understand some of the Sanskrit terminology. They're not easy reads, but it's a good start. But in there, it will help you to explain. It might not be as simple as I told you, but since I seeded your mind with this, you can go back and read and study this. So attachment, pride, and all those things, those are things that embody you or bound you to your body. So what is, in most yoga, they teach you to do what? Detach, right? Because that's where your greatest strength comes from. Because when you can control, it's the same thing we was talking about last week. We talked about Ojas, right? The essence of Ojas and semen and the sexual whatever. If you control the prana in the body, and if you control the mind, you eventually gain control over your sexual urges. If you control out of the three, if you control two of them, you gain control of the third. If you control prana and you control your sex, then you automatically gain control over your mind. See? But if you control the prana and you control your mind, you automatically gain control over your sex urge. If you control either, those are the three major life forces in the body, right? So if you control 2 out of 3, you gain control over the third, which propels you to higher consciousness. And that's the law. That's one of the secrets. Yeah.
For prana, pranayama, for sex, brahmacharya if you wanted to, or
Yeah.
hatha yoga or something like that, and
Yeah.
for mind, raja yoga.
Yeah.
Which is
So, and of course, Nadi yoga brings you to all of that. It gives you the knowledge of all of that. So if you control the 2, you control the third. It's just the law. That's just the law thing. So, you know, those of you who are struggling to control the sex urge, that's one of the secrets to controlling the sex urge. You know, so, but it's all the law. It's not going to be handed to you. It's not going to be handed to you. Okay. So, any other questions? Yeah.
Let's say if in this life, like you had an early period where you were doing drugs and alcohol, and then you stopped completely, and you're purifying yourself. And, in your next life, if you continue purifying yourself, is there a big possibility that you won't fall into that stage, that drug alcohol stage?
If you control it in this life, then you shouldn't have to worry about it in the next life, unless you lying to yourself that you control it. You know, but if you bring about a true control in this life, then you place that behind you, so you won't have to worry about it. But some people go through some type of false state of control. You know.
Maybe means he still wrestles with the temptation of it.
Yeah, what a false state there, yeah. You're still wrestling with it. You know, that's a false state of control. Or you did something to yourself to take the taste away. Like a lot of people, they would go to a hypnotist, and back in the day, and they would have somebody hypnotize them or whatever, so that they don't like. So every time they drink, it tastes like turpentine or something. You know, that's a false state of control. You had some people that brought about that in the past, some mystics, they became eunuchs. You know what a eunuch is? They had an operation so that they couldn't have sex. You know, and that's a false state of control. That's a false mystic to a certain degree too, a false yogi, if they did that, because they did not bring about real control. You know. So that's what I mean by false state. So, but when when you have achieved control, then you're no longer plagued by the desire of that, because you have crushed and destroyed desire. You know, so you have no desire, and the desire that energy that made the desire for that lower thing have been risen to a higher thing now. So then that's when you have control. All right. But when you see something and you still plague it and you remember the taste of it and you smile, you know, you might be in a false state of control. So you have to rise above that. You know, to the point maybe when you see it, it might bring tears to your eyes, because you know the pain that it's doing to the person who's doing it. That's when you probably might have control. You know, because you feel the pain of someone else and not yourself. All right? Any other questions? If not, we'll close out with a prayer.
To those who are watching online, in February we're going to switch our broadcasting platform from Ustream to YouTube. We've been enabled a live streaming account for YouTube, and we've also had a couple of complaints about Ustream, and they're changing their format as well. So in February, we're going to be switching to our main YouTube channel for live streaming. And we're still working out the kinks, but you should receive an email in the next 2 weeks from us in regards to the switch in our platform. Thank you.